Today I am going to build the ultimate WWE roster. My guidelines for building this roster is I am going to choose wrestlers from each decade. So the 1980s, the 1990s, 2000s, 2010s, and the 2020s. For each decade, I am going to choose 3 main eventers. I am going to choose 5 mid-carders. For the sake of my mid carders, what I am using as a qualifier for mid card guys are wrestlers who never won the world championship. Some of these guys I would consider to be main event level guys, but for my qualifier, not to disrespect anyone, my qualifier for a mid carder for this video is that they have never won the world championship. And then I am going to select 2 tag teams from each decade. For my tag teams, I am allowing myself to choose tag teams that have someone in it who would have gone on to win a world championship. But for the sake of my roster, I am going to keep them within the tag team division. So I am allowing myself to choose tag teams that include future world champions. But for my roster, they are going to stay in the tag team that I choose them in. So yeah, let's jump right into it. We'll start with the 1980s. My first main eventer of the 1980s is going to be Hulk Hogan. If you think about 1980s wrestling, you think about Hulk Hogan. This was the peak of Hulkamania. Whether you like him or not, his impact in professional wrestling is undeniable. He's one of the most recognizable professional wrestlers in history, one of the biggest draws, and just one of the biggest stars there ever was. So Hulk Hogan is going to be my first main eventer. My second main eventer is someone I wish I was able to grow up watching. I was not alive in the 80s, so I was unable to see these superstars as a kid. But went back and watched all of these people, and this is the person I think I would have most enjoyed, and that is the Macho Man, Randy Savage. He is going to be my second main eventer. When I think of professional wrestlers, I think Randy Savage is one of the most complete packages there is. The promo, the voice, the gear, the entrance, the in-ring ability, everything about Randy Savage to me is what a professional wrestler is and should be. I think he is the epitome of professional wrestling, and he is someone I would want as my main eventer. Again, he is also one of the most recognizable names in professional wrestling history, so that helps as well. My third and final main eventer for the 1980s is someone who never won the world championship. He's the only guy on my roster listed as a main eventer who never won the world championship, but putting him in the mid card would feel unfair because he is a main eventer. He has main evented anything and everything, and that is Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper is one of the best heels to ever live. He is one of the best promos to ever live, and he's just a guy that I would want on any roster in any era of professional wrestling history. So Roddy Piper is my third and final main eventer for the 1980s. Now we move to the mid-card. Again, these guys are mid-carders on my roster, but many of them are main event level guys. But again, the qualifier is they have never won the world championship. My first pick is going to be the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. I think the $1 Million Man gimmick is incredible. I think he is a wonderful heel. The look, the voice, the laugh, the promo, the in-ring ability, everything about DiBiase is fantastic. Not so sure how well a $1 million gimmick would work in today's day, but it was perfect for the 1980s. So Ted DiBiase is my first mid-carder. My second mid-carder of the 1980s is going to be Mr. Perfect. We are going to need a lot of great in-ring workers here, and Mr. Perfect is that. Again, I did not grow up watching Mr. Perfect, but I was watching when he had that short run in the early 2000s. I always liked the vignettes of Mr. Perfect, and going back and watching him, he's just incredible in the ring, and I think he's like one of the perfect mid-card guys. My third mid-carder is going to be Ravishing Rick Rude. Rick Rude, I believe, has one of the best looks in pro wrestling history. The hair, the mustache, the body, the tights with spray painted of either his opponent's wife or girlfriend or the opponent themselves. I think it's just like the perfect heel look. Again, his body and his mustache, incredible. Just looks like a professional wrestler. He's a guy I would want on my roster. My fourth mid carder is going to be Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat obviously has main evented a ton with Ric Flair before the WWE days or WWF days. He's regarded as one of the best in-ring workers there's ever been. There's not a single person in the professional wrestling business who doesn't rave about his in-ring work. So we'll take Ricky Steamboat as our fourth mid-carder. And my final mid-carder of the 1980s is going to be Jake the Snake Roberts. I love the Jake the Snake gimmick. His promos are incredible. He's able to evoke emotion out of you without even raising his voice. So he has a real unique promo ability. And again, with the snake, the mustache, the look, he's not one of the bodybuilder guys, but his look and promo ability work perfect together. Everyone talks about his ring psychology and just his psychology in professional wrestling. He is a guy I would want on my roster. So Jake the Snake is my final mid-carder. Now we move to the tag teams of the 1980s. And I personally think the 1980s tag team division is probably the strongest the WWE or WWF tag team division has ever been. There was so many to choose from here, but I did settle on two of them. The first being the Hart Foundation of Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Again, Bret Hart would go on to become a multiple-time world champion, but for the sake of this, I am keeping him within the tag team division. I think him and Neidhart just have a great look together. They're widely regarded as one of the best tag teams in history. And getting Bret Hart on my roster is important. So I'll take the Hart Foundation as my first tag team of the 80s. And my second tag team of the 1980s is going to be the British Bulldogs. Again, this is another tag team that I think looks great together. When I went back and watched like old professional wrestling when I was younger and even currently, Dynamite Kid is just a guy who stands out to me with his intensity, his physicality. I love his snap suplex. Obviously, he's had the issues outside of the ring, but pretty much everyone will admit that like he was real influential in like in-ring work. And I just think he's outstanding in the ring. And British Bulldog, Davey Boy, he just looks the part. He's huge, and I think they are a great tag team together. So those are my picks for the 1980s. My main eventers are going to be Hogan, Savage, and Piper. My mid-carders are going to be DiBiase, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Ricky Steamboat, and Jake the Snake Roberts. And my two tag teams for the 1980s are going to be the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. Now let's move to the 1990s. And this is where it got a little more tricky just because of the Attitude Era being in the late 90s here. For some of these people, it was a little tougher to decide, like, should they be in the 80s, should they be in the 90s, should they be in the 2000s, just based on maybe some of them like debuting in 88 and going to 93 or like 97 to 04, whatever it may be. Some of them were kind of like, do I put them in this decade? Do I put them in that decade? So that got a little tricky when figuring this out. But let's go over my 1990s. My first main eventer is going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin didn't main event until later in the 90s, but when he did, it's one of the biggest draws in the history of the profession, one of the biggest stars in the history of the profession, the biggest anti-hero there's ever been, just one of the biggest stars ever. So no roster is complete without Stone Cold Steve Austin, so he is going to be my first main eventer. My second main eventer of the 1990s is going to be Shawn Michaels. I personally much prefer the look of Shawn Michaels in the 1990s compared to his second run in the 2000s and even going into the 2010s. So I'm choosing 1990s Shawn Michaels. Shawn, one of the greatest in-ring workers there's ever been. Everyone talks about how great he is in the ring, and he's always going to be in the discussion when talking about professional wrestling within the ring. And again, I just like the look of 1990s Shawn Michaels, the real Heartbreak Kid. I thought he looked tremendous in the 90s. So give me 1990s Shawn Michaels as my second main eventer. My final main eventer for the 1990s is going to be The Undertaker. I think the presentation of The Undertaker is incredible. I think he has one of the best gimmicks in the history of professional wrestling. I think he's one of the best big men in the history of professional wrestling. And just to get that aura of The Undertaker and his entrance and all the things that come with him is something I would want on my roster. So The Undertaker is my third main eventer. Now we move to the mid card. My first mid carder is going to be Razor Ramon. I think Razor Ramon has an incredible look. I was not alive to watch more of like the Razor gimmick. I saw more of him as like Scott Hall in the NWO, the Outsiders type of stuff is when I was able to actually view it live as a professional wrestling fan. So I didn't really get to see the Razor gimmick as it was happening. But obviously went back and watched clips. I love the vignettes. I love the promo. I love the hey yo. I love the toothpick. I love the hairy chest. I love the chains. He's like 6'7", just looks like a professional wrestler. I remember when I was a kid and I was playing either like SmackDown, Shut Your Mouth, or Here Comes the Pain, whatever it may have been. And when you couldn't do like the community creations, I would play it with my dad, and he ended up creating Razor Ramon. So Razor Ramon's just been a person I always looked at as like a cool professional wrestler, and he's someone I would want on my roster. My second mid carder is going to be Owen Hart. Want to have Owen Hart on the roster because he's great in the ring. Also want to have him because I have the Hart Foundation as well. The Hart name means something, and everyone just raves about Owen Hart as well. And he's great in the ring. Probably never reached the potential he should have. Maybe a little overshadowed by Brett. But Owen Hart, great worker, great professional wrestler, someone I would want. My third mid carder is someone who did win the world championship, but not under this character or this gimmick. And that's going to be Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack, I would consider a main event level guy, but never won the world championship as Cactus Jack. Mick Foley to me, Mick Foley means a lot to me just because he was one of my favorite wrestlers as a child growing up. I personally think he's the best hardcore wrestler there ever was. People do all this hardcore stuff in today's day, but it doesn't look as real or as like painful or as physical as Foley was able to make it look, because it actually was painful and physical the way he was doing it. And Cactus Jack is my favorite version of Foley, the missing teeth, the wanted shirt. I just love Cactus Jack, and he's someone I want on my roster. My fourth mid-carder is someone who didn't really reach great heights in the WWF to the extent he probably should have due to a leg injury. He was never really able to work in the ring in the WWF the way he was outside, and that's Brian Pillman. I love the loose cannon gimmick. I think Brian Pillman looks great with his hair, his unique, weird, crazy promo, just uncontrollable, unpredictable. I didn't see it live again, but the gun angle with Austin just shows like the unpredictability of him. Using a gun on national television is something you won't even see in today's day. So the loose cannon Brian Pillman I thought was a tremendous gimmick, and I went back and read his book, and I just like the guy. So he's someone I want on my roster. Unfortunately, with the leg injury, he wasn't able to be what he was in the ring outside of WWF, but he's still someone that I would want for the character, for the promo, for the unpredictability of the loose cannon. My last mid-carder for the 1990s is a guy similar to Pillman that, like, you would say did not reach the heights he probably should have in the WWF, and that's going to be Vader. Vader is, unlike The Undertaker, is a different type of big man, but he's probably the most agile, most athletic big man there ever was. Everything he did was stiff and looked physical because it was. He did not reach the heights in WWF that he did outside, whether that be politicking backstage or whatever it may have been. Vader is incredible, and he is, in my opinion, he might be the best big man of like the heavy set big man instead of Undertaker being just giant. He might be the best big man ever. So give me Vader as my last mid-carder. Again, probably should have reached main event in the WWF World Championship level. Never really got to do that. But give me Vader. My tag teams for the 1990s. This is where it got a little tricky. because one of the tag teams I do want is from the Attitude Era, and I wasn't sure to include them in the 90s or the 2000s, but I chose the 2000s for them. So for my 1990s tag teams, and neither of these teams really had that long of a run, but my first tag team is going to be the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott Steiner. These guys just look great. They're in incredible shape. They got the collegiate wrestling background for legitimacy. They were doing innovative athletic stuff for people their size back then. And I just think they're just two huge guys who work well as a tag team. I also like the fact that they are brothers. I love when tag teams are either brothers or family or have some sort of connection that just kind of makes it feel more of a tag team to me. So give me the Steiner brothers as my first tag team. And my second tag team is going to be a team that certainly did not reach its peak of its career in the WWF. They were much bigger outside of the WWF, and that's going to be the Road Warriors, or LOD, Legion of Doom. They just looked the part. The spiked shoulder pads, the face paint, the hair, the being big, strong guys. They just look like an incredible professional wrestling tag team. Everyone has heard people talk about the Road Warrior pop. I wasn't able to live it, but going back and watching clips, you see just how over they were. And if you were choosing a roster for professional wrestling of every promotion, every era, the Road Warriors would probably be the first pick for tag teams. So those are my pick for the 1990s. For my main eventers, I have Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker. For my mid-carders, I have Razor Ramon, Owen Hart, Cactus Jack, Brian Pillman, and Vader. And for my tag teams, I have the Steiner Brothers and the Road Warriors. Now let's move to the 2000s. For the 2000s, my first main eventer is going to be Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle's incredible. He has the Olympic gold medal. He has the promo ability as a heel or as a babyface, and he's just one of the best guys in the ring ever. Everyone talks about how he took to the business faster and quicker than pretty much anyone ever has in the history. Not much needs to be said about Kurt Angle. Everyone acknowledges how good of an in-ring worker he is, and I think he is super charismatic and someone I would want on my roster. So he's going to be my first main eventer of the 2000s. My second main eventer is going to be Brock Lesnar. I could have chose Brock Lesnar in the 2000s, in the 2010s, even in the 2020s, but me personally, I like the look of Brock Lesnar in his first run the best. He was just this young guy, the next big thing. He looked insane. He had crazy traps at the time, and he just looked like the future of the business, which he obviously would become. And in my opinion, Brock Lesnar is probably the most legitimate, believable professional wrestler there has ever been. He would go on, he didn't at the time, but he would go on to win the UFC championship. So that just talks about his legitimacy there. At the time, he did already have the NCAA heavyweight championship. And just look at the guy. He's incredible. I think he is severely underrated in terms of his selling ability. I think he's a tremendous seller for anyone at any size, but for being his size and being able to sell the way he does, Brock Lesnar is just incredible. I love Brock Lesnar, and he's someone I would want on my roster. My final main eventer may be a controversial one, but it is a preference of mine from childhood. Obviously, choosing John Cena here would be perfectly fine and maybe the right choice. He is one of the biggest draws in the history. He is one of the biggest stars in the history. He has the longevity. He has the merchandise sales. He has everything. But for me, growing up, I was always a Randy Orton guy over John Cena. So I am going to choose Randy Orton here. I think Randy Orton is incredible in the ring. I think Randy Orton looks great. He obviously was not the star that John Cena was, but I already have Hulk Hogan, so Hogan can kind of be like my cheesy babyface guy. Whereas Randy Orton, again, I just was always a Randy Orton guy. I remember being at a house show in probably like 2005 or 2006, and Randy Orton versus John Cena was the main event. And I was like the only kid in the crowd cheering for Randy Orton. I've always been a Randy Orton guy over John Cena. I tend to prefer the heel over the babyface even to this day. But yeah, give me Randy Orton as my main eventer. And now let's move to the mid card. My first mid carder is going to be Mr. Kennedy. Kennedy. And I think he is insanely charismatic. He was so over in the mid 2000s. I don't remember exactly when his debut was, but at that same house show that I saw Cena and Orton at, I went with a Mr. Kennedy sign. My dad like drew up the sign, I colored it in, but I went with a Mr. Kennedy sign. And yeah, people might not remember how over he was, but he was super over. He did win the Money in the Bank, and it looked like he was heading towards main event world championship status. Whatever may have happened backstage, politicking wise, that got him released. Who knows the exact story? But Mr. Kennedy was a guy I love. Maybe not so much the greatest in the ring, but his charisma was undeniable and he was super over. So give me Mr. Kennedy as a good mid carder here. My next mid carder is going to be Umaga. I loved Umaga growing up. I thought he was a great beast of a Samoan. I thought he was certainly destined for world championship status. It never happened, but maybe Umaga is just a guy who doesn't really need a world title. Maybe he's more of just the attraction of Umaga. Umaga was incredible for me. I loved him. He was I didn't get to see Vader growing up. I saw Umaga growing up. He was probably my favorite big man growing up in terms of like the heavyset big man. So big Umaga fan, definitely want him on my roster. Another guy I want on my roster is Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin, super athletic, looks great, incredible in the ring. He probably lacks the charisma of a lot of these main event guys, but he was a guy that many thought and I thought was headed towards world championship status. Never happened. But Shelton Benjamin, incredible in the ring. Give me Shelton Benjamin. Then I am going to select MVP. And I got to be honest, I was not a fan of MVP growing up, whether that be him just being a great heel, but I did not like MVP when he first came onto the scene. That he's obviously grown on me, and with his later half of his career here, and me growing up and realizing what professional wrestling is, he's incredible on the mic. I think he's even shown that maybe even more so in his later career that he is a tremendous promo. But when he came onto the scene, he had the elaborate entrance, he had the chain, he did the ball-in. He looked like a guy who was going to be a main event level guy. So give me MVP as a mid-carder here. And my final mid-carder of the 2000s is going to be John Morrison. I was a big fan of M&M as the tag team. Obviously didn't choose them as my tag team here, but give me John Morrison. He's probably one of the guys who's maybe more of like solidified mid-carder. Oh, he might have won the ECW championship. I might have messed up by including him here. But give me John Morrison. He had the hair, he had the slow-mo entrance, the fur jacket, he had the abs. He at the time was real innovative in the ring and maybe doesn't get enough credit for some of the stuff that he was doing. But give me John Morrison as a mid-carder here. If he was ECW champion, I can't remember fully if he was. That would have disqualified him from this, but I did not look that up, so probably should have. But give me John Morrison as my last and final mid-carder of the 2000s. Now we move to the tag teams, and this first tag team is the tag team I was deciding on whether to put in the 90s or the 2000s. I stuck them in the 2000s because I believe their biggest matches and biggest moments happened in the 2000s, and that is the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys are my favorite tag team ever. Jeff Hardy was my favorite professional wrestler growing up. If you were a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s, you were a Hardy Boys guy, Team Extreme, Jeff Hardy, whatever it may be, you absolutely love them. There was no way I was going to create any roster ever without including the Hardy Boys because I love them. They can be, with all these tag teams I have, they can be like the underdog over baby faces. They could be the spot guys. Give me the Hardy Boys. Absolutely love them. And again, my favorite professional wrestling tag team of all time. My next tag team is going to be a team that did tag together and they did win the tag team championships. But I'm more so choosing this just because I desperately wanted both guys on my roster, but they both won world championships and I didn't really want them as my main event guys. So I'm going to choose Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Again, wanted both of them on my roster for obvious reasons. Certainly wanted Rey Mysterio, but did not want him as the main eventer. Eddie, certainly wanted him on my roster, and I could have put him as the main eventer, but in order to get both of them on my roster, I chose them as a tag team. Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, both big stars in professional wrestling. Um, and yeah, so my main eventers for 2000 are Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, and Randy Orton. My mid carders for the 2000s are Mr. Kennedy, Umaga, Shelton Benjamin, John Morrison, which if he won the ECW championship, I messed up there, but John Morrison and MVP. And then my tag teams are going to be the Hardy Boys and Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. We now move to the 2010s. My first main eventer for the 2010s is going to be CM Punk. CM Punk honestly might be my favorite professional wrestler ever. He means a lot to me. He is probably a guy I'm going to make a video on just on him in the future. But CM Punk, I think, is a tremendous professional wrestler. I think he's one of the best on the mic ever. I think he's very good in the ring. He has great entrance music, whichever one it may be. And I think the straight edge gimmick, it's not really a gimmick because that's actually who he is, but I think the straight edge gimmick is perfect for professional wrestling. It works great as a heel, as we've seen. And I also think it could have gotten really over as a baby face leaning into the straight edge gimmick. He's been a baby face in the past and is currently, but doesn't really lean into the straight edge part of it. I think being a guy who is like the role model for kids, not doing drugs, not drinking, those type of things could have worked as well. But we've seen the heel version, and I honestly would prefer the heel version, but that works tremendously. I honestly might like his 2020s run better, just because he was more of a solidified main eventer currently than he was in the 2010s, and just because he was gone for so long, it felt like it was probably never going to happen. So maybe that's why I might like the 2020s run better. But give me the 2010s version of CM Punk, the anti-hero pipe bomb Punk. Give me this version of CM Punk as my first main eventer. My second main eventer of the 2010s is going to be Seth Rollins. This is my favorite version of Seth Rollins. Back in probably like 2009-ish to like 2013, 2014-ish, I wasn't following pro wrestling as closely as I was when I was a kid or as closely as I do now. I would keep up on like the CM Punk Jeff Hardy feud just because those were two of my guys. But I kind of took a break of watching religiously. And when I started watching again, which would have been like 2013, 2014 range, kind of when the WWE Network was launching, I think the 2014 Royal Rumble was the first pay-per-view I watched when I started watching again and have been watching since religiously. But Seth Rollins was one of my first favorite wrestlers of the new bunch of guys. And I think this version of Seth Rollins is my favorite. The Authority Seth Rollins, when he had the blonde streak in his hair, when he was the double champ. I enjoy Seth Rollins now. I love his in-ring work, but I definitely preferred the Authority version of Seth Rollins the best. So give me Seth Rollins as my second 2010s main eventer. And my final main eventer for the 2010s is going to be Daniel Bryan. And I got to be honest, I didn't get it at first. I did not understand why he was so over. He's great in the ring, which we all see. He can work with everyone. But I did not get it. There was a kid in one of my college classes who I knew watched pro wrestling as well, and I literally asked him, like, what is it? What is it about Daniel Bryan that has him so over? I wasn't getting it early on. I could obviously see he was good in the ring, but didn't really understand why he was so over. And then obviously I understood why. His Yes movement was incredible. The rise of it, the B plus player stuff of him overachieving in terms of what the WWE believed. But just that whole run of Daniel Bryan's incredible. He's tremendous in the ring, like I've said multiple times already. He can work with anyone. And he can also be a heel. When he was doing the environmental gimmick, that worked. He got people to boo him after the Yes movement, which is crazy. So Daniel Bryan can do just about anything character-wise, and he can do everything in the ring. So give me Daniel Bryan as my last and final main eventer of the 2010s. Now we move to the mid-card. And this was probably, it got a lot tougher to choose mid-carders in the 2010s and 2020s, just because a lot of the mid-carders would go on to win world championships, much more so than they did in the previous eras, just because there was two titles now. Reigns weren't lasting as long like Hogan ran the 80s. So there was more world champions, so that kind of limited who I could take in the mid card here. So I wasn't able to choose guys like Ziggler, like The Miz, like Kofi. Those were some guys I were considering but couldn't take because they became world champions. So my first one is going to be Samoa Joe, and this one was a no-brainer. Similar to Daniel Bryan, I didn't get Samoa Joe early on. I wasn't understanding why he was so over, but that's because the first time I saw him was in TNA when he had the like face paint and he would like dance to the ring, and I just was not getting it. I was a kid, so I didn't really get to see Ring of Honor, his run there. I saw him in magazines when I would go to a store that was near me, and I would always check for wrestling magazines. So I saw like pictures of him and stuff like that, but never got to see his in-ring work prior to TNA. And when I saw him in TNA, I just wasn't getting it. But he grew on me as is obvious with everyone. Well, others may have gotten him right away. But seeing Samoa Joe, even to this day, he is tremendous in the ring. He's a very good promo. He is probably an underrated promo, and he never became world champion in WWE. He did have that match with Lesnar, and the build up to that kind of showed like, hey, this guy is legitimate. So give me Samoa Joe in any era. My next pick is going to be Cesaro. I was a big Cesaro guy. I loved him in the ring. He looks great. He lacks the charisma of a main eventer. But when he did the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, that was such a cool moment. It made the Battle Royal feel like it might mean something going forward. Obviously, it doesn't really mean much anymore. But that was a great moment, and I'm a big Cesaro fan. Loved his tag team with Tyson Kidd. Loved the bar. I just think Cesaro's great. So give me him as a mid-carder. My next mid-carder is going to be Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn, just an incredible babyface. I like the look of 2010's Sami Zayn better. I like the more clean-cut version of Sami Zayn, and he was in better shape here. Not to say he's in bad shape now, but he had abs somewhat back then. This Sami Zayn, the short hair, straight off of NXT Sami Zayn, is my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite version of Sami Zayn, but I think he looked the best during this era. So give me Sami Zayn. Again, he can work with anyone. He's a good promo as well. Sami Zayn as my third mid-carder. And then this is where it kind of got trickier just because I was running out of people to choose because of all these other guys becoming world champions. My next mid-carder is going to be Rusev. When he came onto the scene with Lana and he was doing the Russian gimmick, it got over. He looked like he was going to be a future world champion. Never became that. But Rusev looks great. I think he looks better now than he did then. I think he looks better with the shaved head. But Rusev, he looks the part, and he's a good enough worker to have him as a mid-carder. So give me Rusev. And then my final one, I was running out of choices here. Not to take anything away from this guy because I think he's very good. But my final mid-carder is going to be Bobby Roode. I don't remember if they used just Robert Roode his entire time in the WWE. Can't remember. But Bobby Roode, give me Bobby Roode. He had the glorious entrance, and it was glorious. It was a great entrance. He looks the part. He has the robe. He's tan. He's looks great shape. And he's solid in the ring. So give me Bobby Roode here as my final mid-carder of the 2010s. Now we move to the tag teams of the 2010s. And I'll just get this one out of the way because I really love this tag team but didn't choose them. Chad Gable and Jason Jordan. I believe it was American Alpha at the time. I thought that was an incredible tag team. Obviously got cut short because of Jason Jordan's injury. But I did not choose them because I already have my college wrestler tag team of the Steiner brothers. So didn't choose Gable and Jordan, but I was an absolutely big fan of them. I chose the Revival as one of my tag teams. They didn't really do what they should have on WWE television, but they're a tremendous tag team. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder at the time. They kind of have that old school look. I didn't get the Brain Busters early on. So give me the Revival here. Great in-ring workers. They look like an old school tag team. They work great together. And in the peaks of their careers were definitely in NXT and in AEW. Certainly not on WWE television, but give me them because they are a great tag team. And my next tag team, I don't care what anyone says. I'm choosing Enzo and Cass. They were super over. I think they were perfect as a tag team. Enzo has this charisma that is unique to himself, And Big Cass, he's even in better shape now, but Big Cass is huge, and now he's jacked. But you have Enzo as the mouthpiece, Cass as the heavy, the body, the guy who's gonna beat people up, and Enzo's just gonna run his mouth. But Enzo Amore, incredible promo. I can't say enough how big of a fan I was of this tag team. It's crazy that they never won the tag titles. I don't think they didn't win it in NXT or in WWE. So it's crazy that they were so over. If you go back and watch clips of them, everyone eats it up. They Enzo did the promo without a mic, and the crowd just did the whole thing for him. Enzo and Mori and Big Cass, I love them as a tag team, and I think they're the most charismatic tag team I have. So give me Enzo Amore and Big Cass as my final tag team of the 2010s. So for the 2010s, my main eventers are CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Daniel Bryan. My mid-carders are Samoa Joe, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Rusev, and Bobby Roode. And my tag teams are The Revival and Enzo and Cass. Now let's move to the final decade, or the 6 years that we are into it, of the 2020s. My first main eventer of the 2020s is going to be Roman Reigns. He could have been chosen as a main eventer for the 2010s, but the 2020s version is the peak version of Roman Reigns. The Bloodline version of Roman Reigns is the best stuff he's done. So give me Roman Reigns as my first main eventer of the 2020s. My second main eventer of the 2020s is going to be Gunther. I absolutely love Gunther. He's one of my favorite current professional wrestlers. I think he looks the part. I think he's great in the ring. His physicality is amazing. I think his promo is underrated. I think he's one of the best professional wrestlers in the world, and I want him on my roster. He would work in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. He would work in any era. Give me Gunther as my second main eventer. And my final main eventer, it's kind of undeniable. It's Cody Rhodes. I'm not the biggest fan of Cody Rhodes, but I love what he has done and what he is doing. Him going away, making the name for himself, coming back and proving that he is a main eventer. And I think since he's came back, he's main evented like 5 nights of WrestleMania. So give me Cody Rhodes. He's solid in the ring. He has the entrance. He's treated as a main eventer. He has the Rhodes name. So although he might not be my favorite professional wrestler currently, he's certainly deserving of the main event scene, even though some people might be starting to get bored with him. Maybe even me a little bit. But Cody Rhodes, definitely one of the biggest main eventers of the 2020s. So give me Cody Rhodes as my third main eventer of the 2020s. Then we move to the mid card. And my first choice, again, my mid-carders are going to be people who have yet to win a world championship. This first mid-carder is 100% certainly going to win a world championship in probably the very near future. But my first pick is Braun Breaker. I don't think anything really has to be said. He's insane athlete. The speed he picks up running the ropes, his spear, he's getting better promo-wise, but he looks great. He's a Steiner. And with Paul Heyman, he's just incredible. He will be a future world champion and the future of the business. Give me Braun Breaker as my first mid-carder, as I can actually do that for now, because I won't be able to do that in the future because world championship is coming soon. My second mid-carder is going to be Ilya Dragunov. I love Dragunov. His matches with Gunther, Walter are tremendous. He's this intense, fiery mid-card guy who can have a great match with everyone, and the intensity and fire he has, I just love. Not the biggest fan of the neck and chest tattoo. I thought he kind of looked better in a suit without that, but I think he can work as a heel. I think he can work as a babyface. Ilya Dragunov, I am a huge fan of. Let's get him back on television. Give me Ilya Dragunov as a mid-carder. My next mid-carder is another guy who is very likely going to be a world champion. I don't know how soon, but he certainly should be coming up, and that's Jacob Fatu. I love Jacob Fatu. I think they haven't utilized him the way they should have. He probably should have had that Solo Sikoa Enforcer gimmick for the Bloodline during the original Bloodline. They've kind of cleaned him up on WWE television compared to how he looked outside of the WWE. But he's undeniable in the ring. He's gotten even better shape now. And Jacob Fatu is a guy who's certainly going to be a future main eventer and future world champion. My next pick is going to be Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio has exceeded all of my expectations and probably the expectations of many. He's just so entertaining on television. Over the last 5 years or so, he's probably one of the more entertaining guys on television. Give me Dominic Mysterio. I just love him. Give me Dom. And then my last one, I am picking this guy because I think he is the best currently of doing flippy stuff, and that is Ricochet. I don't ever see Ricochet being main event in WWE, and he probably didn't either. That's why he left and has done his stuff in AEW. But I think Ricochet does the flippy stuff better than just about everyone. He's in tremendous shape. He looks good. Give me Ricochet as a mid-carder to kind of do the wild stuff. And then my tag team for the 2020s, got to be honest, the 2020 tag teams have not been and are not great. I debated the New Day here, but I didn't choose them just because I would have wanted all three of them, and I haven't done that throughout here of choosing an actual faction. So I didn't choose the New Day. My first tag team is going to be the Usos, and I think they're the most main event level tag team there has been in the 2020s. They main evented a night of WrestleMania against Sami and Kevin, and they've also been featured in main event angles for pretty much the entirety of the 2020s. I remember back, I don't remember when the year would be, but I remember back watching the Usos when they were like in the orange shorts and had the face paint and would do the chant. I was like, this is just a tag team I'll never care about. I'll never like boo them. I'll never cheer for them. They're just there, and there's nothing really to it for me. And then when SmackDown Live started and they did the Uso penitentiary gimmick and they were the heels and started wearing street clothes, I was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. And they were honestly one of my favorite tag teams then, which was crazy that they went from, it was probably only like a year or two period from me being like, okay, I'll never care about this tag team, to me actually liking them, and to them becoming who they would become in the bloodline. And Jey Uso had his run as a singles champ. But give me the Usos as a tag team. And my next tag team is a team I just want both guys on my roster. Again, the 2020s tag teams, there wasn't too much to choose from. So and they've just had a short run. Give me Logan Paul and Austin Theory. I think Logan Paul, tremendous professional wrestler. He gets heat because people generally don't like him. But he's solid in the ring. He's obviously green in the ring still, so he wouldn't be able to like call matches on his own, but he's able to have entertaining matches. He's great on the mic, and Austin Theory is kind of the guy who can guide them in the ring because he's more technically sound, and whereas Austin Theory can like help him in the ring, Logan Paul helps Austin Theory in terms of like star power. So give me this tag team. Logan Paul got hurt, so who knows if it's ever revisited. Theory is currently champs with Braun Breaker now, but the tag team of Logan Paul and Austin Theory I thought was a perfect pairing and something I would want on my television for a while. So for the 2020s, my main eventers are Roman Reigns, Gunther, and Cody Rhodes. My mid-carders are Braun Breaker, Ilya Dragunov, Jacob Fatu, Dominic Mysterio, and Ricochet. And my tag teams are the Usos and Logan Paul and Austin Theory. So those are my entire roster from the 80s to the 2020s, but I also wanted to include women as well. It would have been impossible to choose women from each decade just because there wasn't many women's wrestlers in the 80s and then like 90s, 2000. So it didn't get taken too seriously until the last like 15 years or so. So I am going to choose women. I am going to choose 10 total women to have on my roster. And my first pick is going to be Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is probably my favorite female pro wrestler of all time. I think she has the best look of a professional wrestler for females there's ever been. The entrance, the appearance, the tattoos, the gear, everything about her screams superstar. She's very good in the ring. She's probably my favorite professional women's wrestler of all time. So give me Rhea Ripley as my first choice. My second choice is going to be Becky Lynch. And Becky Lynch is probably my second favorite female professional wrestler of all time. I think she's the best on the mic ever for any female. She's just incredible on the mic. She's good in the ring. Her the man rise was incredible to watch. She was, I don't want to say the reason they main evented WrestleMania, because credit certainly belongs to Ronda Rousey there because of the name and star power and what she was able to do main eventing in the UFC. So Ronda Rousey kind of opened that opportunity for them. But if there was no Becky Lynch, the man rise during that time period, who knows if they would have ever main evented WrestleMania. So give me Becky Lynch. I think she's the best woman on the mic ever, and she's also super entertaining on social media as well. Even just currently, she's like talking about the Italy trip and saying like, I can't enjoy my eggplant parm because of the drama that happened in the match. I can't enjoy these ducks and whatever it may be. Becky Lynch is just incredible on the mic, on social media, very good in the ring. So give me Becky Lynch as choice number 2. And then while we're at it, let's just take the rest of the 4 horsewomen. Give me Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. I think Charlotte Flair is one of the best ever. She might be my 3rd favorite woman ever. She's good in the ring, has the Flair name. So give me Charlotte Flair. Sasha Banks. I think Sasha Banks is a tremendous heel, and she's good in the ring as well. So give me Sasha Banks. And then Bayley, great in the ring. She just seems to be like the best person ever. No one has a bad word to say about her. She's always giving back to professional wrestlers. So give me Bayley as well. Then we move to, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far, so 5 more to go. My next choice is going to be Asuka, and I love the heel version of Asuka. I wish they would have done the face paint mist, cutting promos in Japanese with subtitles and kind of just screaming Asuka from the very beginning. I would have been a massive fan from the start. That's the perfect version of Asuka for me. So give me Asuka. Then, just for the sake of it, give me Trish Stratus and Lita. They were kind of the two to kind of... They were the first women to main event a Raw. They were kind of the 2 stars of the early 2000s who kind of did more for women's professional wrestling than just being treated as like bra and panty matches, as valets and stuff like that. So give me Trish and Lita. I was a big fan of Lita growing up. She was my favorite female pro wrestler growing up. Going back and looking at it, maybe doesn't hold up as much as it would be based on current wrestlers. But big fan of Lita growing up, and then Trish was the star of the 2000s, so add Trish as well. So I have 2 more. Give me Bianca Belair. I think Bianca Belair is one of the best overall wrestlers as well. Tremendous in the ring, has a great look, is a solid promo. So give me Bianca Belair. She's great. And then my final choice is going to be Liv Morgan. I think she is maybe the most entertaining on television professional women wrestlers currently. And I did not like her at the start. It wasn't until the Dom stuff that I was like, okay, I became a fan. I honestly thought I didn't get it. I didn't get why people liked her previously to that. But when she got the opportunity with Dom becoming world champion and just that whole stuff, she's a superstar. I love Liv Morgan. She's super entertaining. And like I said, I think she's one of the most entertaining female professional wrestlers on television currently. So give me Liv Morgan. So my women, Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, Asuka, Trish, Lita, Bianca, and Liv Morgan. And for the sake of it, let's just choose 3 managers quick. Paul Heyman, he's going to be my first manager choice always, no matter what. Paul Heyman, incredible. My second manager is going to be Bobby Heenan. Again, anyone who grew up watching professional wrestling or any historian loves Bobby Heenan. So give me Bobby Heenan. Even Jim Cornette would put Bobby Heenan above him. So give me Bobby Heenan. And then I'm not choosing Jim Cornette as my third manager. I am, just because his stuff kind of peaked before the WWE. So I'm going to choose Miss Elizabeth. Give me Miss Elizabeth. She never really said much, but the package of her and Randy Savage is undeniable. Fans absolutely loved Miss Elizabeth. They cried for her. So give me Miss Elizabeth as Savage's valet. So that's all of it. That's my picks for my Ultimate WWE roster from the 80s through the 2020s. Let's just quickly go over it. My main eventers are Hogan, Savage, Piper, Austin, Michaels, Taker, Angle, Lesnar, Orton, Punk, Rollins, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, Gunther, and Cody. My mid-carders are going to be Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Ricky Steamboat, Jake Roberts, Razor Ramon, Owen Hart, Cactus Jack, Brian Pillman, Vader, Umaga, Mr. Kennedy, Shelton Benjamin, John Morrison, MVP, Samoa Joe, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Rusev, Bobby Roode, Braun Breaker, Ilya Dragunov, Jacob Fatu, Dominic Mysterio, and Ricochet. My tag teams are going to be the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation, the Steiners and the Road Warriors, the Hardy Boys and Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, the Revival, Enzo and Cass, the Usos, and Logan Paul and Austin Theory. My women are Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Asuka, Trish, Lita, Bianca, and Liv. And my managers are going to be Paul Heyman, Bobby Heenan, and Miss Elizabeth. We are at 73 people, so for the sake of just hitting 75, let's just throw 2 in for the commentary team. And I'm going to choose Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler because that is who I grew up on. So let's make it a clean 75 and add them to the list as well. But yeah, that's it. That's my ultimate WWE roster. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you would have added, and I'll see you in the next one.